Tommy, I called the Golden State-Memphis game last night, took a red eye. I'm here grinding away.
By the way, you deserve a shout-out for this. The audience should know. You got off the plane and started taping. No nap, barely coffee.
I got off the plane. This is, I believe, the third thing we've taped today, this intro. We recorded a podcast, a full episode earlier that will be out in the next week or so with such a great guest. I don't want to give too much away, but we're excited about it. Did some other recording stuff, and now we're doing this. But spectacular game last night. Golden State and Memphis back and forth all game. Memphis gets up 10. Steph and Clay go nuts, and then Jordan Poole hits a big layup. It's one of those things, you go into every game, and you're just thinking to yourself, please don't be a blowout in the fourth quarter. And then you get to call a game with a guy like Ryan Ruocco, who's just such a great play-by-play guy. Fantastic experience last night.
Did you think on the game-winning layup that was more the play call or was it a defensive breakdown?
Oh, it was a defensive. Look, Golden State doesn't have any timeouts. So we heard Jordan Poole after the game talking to Roz in his post-game interview saying that Draymond called a play on the fly. Based on their alignment, if you've watched basketball, if you've played basketball at any level, and Klay Thompson starts at the elbow opposite the ball, he's going to come off a stagger screen and run to the corner, which is what they did. Ja Morant did the right thing. He's guarding the inbounder. It's a 1-count, 2-count, protect the rim, and then it's immediately tracking Klay to the corner. Zaire Williams' body position was terrible. Because even if Jordan Poole is coming off the screen initially and it's not Klay coming off the screen, you're still locking and trailing that, and you know Ja's going to be in position to track.
Yeah.
If Klay had curled Jordan Poole, that's Zaire Williams' switch. He's not even in a position to switch. It was just bad body position, which is why having Jaren Jackson Jr. foul out, he made, I thought, 2 fouls in the fourth, the offensive foul on DiVincenzo where he hooks him, and then the loose ball foul going for the rebound where he runs into Draymond Green. You can't have those fouls. He's got to be on the court at the end of the game.
We talked about this after the Christmas game. That's the thing. That's the thing with this team. If he is in the, maybe not the favorite. We already fought about this. He is strongly in the conversation for being the defensive player of the year this year, assuming he stays healthy. But he needs to be on the court, and he can't, especially against this team. He can't take himself out of the game with dumb fouls.
So, Brandon Clark, who I'm like. He's one of my favorite guys to watch in the NBA. He's just such a team guy, does all the little things. He's not going to wow you with ball handling skills or jump shots, but he's just in the right place at the right time. This is a big stretch for him over the next 3 to 5 weeks with Steven Adams being out with a knee injury. And we're going to see whether or not, and I believe they are, but we're going to see whether or not this team has some resiliency. We've talked about their depth a number of times. But they're on a 4-game losing streak after winning 11 in a row, and I think they've got 1 game left on this road trip. They've got some work to do over the next 3 to 5 weeks because Steven Adams is so valuable for that team. The first game, by the way, I want to talk about the first game real quick of the night. Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, Super Troll, both in the game and on Twitter. After, I don't know how he had that montage video.
He doesn't miss. The guy's
so quick.
The guy's 100% since he's joined the league. He's not sent a flop tweet out yet.
It's uncanny. First of all, our game had to start on ESPN News because even though they didn't go to overtime, the game ran late. The first game ran late because Philadelphia shot like 16 free throws in the first quarter. The first quarter took like an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking up at the clock and there's like 55 minutes left on the countdown clock of our game, and they're still at halftime. We're like, whoa, we're not starting on time. But I want to talk about the Sixers because they're 19-4 in their last 23 games. I believe they're top 6 in both offensive and defensive efficiency at this point. Just 2 games back in the loss column of the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference. They're starting to look like a true contender right now.
Yeah.
Not only in the East, but to win it all.
Are they? As of today, do you feel they're Boston's biggest threat?
I do, Tommy. and I'm sorry for the long pause, but I had to really think about this.
Very traumatic.
Milwaukee, briefly. Chris Middleton, that's a question mark. I'm not questioning Chris Middleton, the player, but dealing with these injuries and hasn't looked like himself, although he played well the other night in Detroit. That's a concern. Well, Milwaukee's shooting in general has been very inconsistent. Giannis is going to get 2 and 3 defenders. They've got to be able to knock down shots in a playoff series. Brooklyn is awesome. And with Kevin, they had an amazing stretch. Struggled a little bit, although they had a big win at Golden State over the weekend. Struggled a little bit without Kevin. That's to be expected given that he's your best player and he's so impactful on both ends of the floor. Philadelphia right now, I was looking this up today, is at plus 1,400 on DraftKings to be the NBA champion. They currently have the 8th best odds in the league. That feels a little low. That feels like a value play to me.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Nets are at plus 600. And what's interesting is how much the Nets have oscillated over the last 6 to 8 months. They opened back in May when this year's championship odds opened. They opened at plus 450. By July 4th, when Kevin Durant was asking for a trade, they were at plus 3,000. In a single day, the ultimatum day on August 8th, they dropped from plus 1,400 to plus 700 when Durant said he was coming back. And they've kind of stayed around there. They were as high as plus 1,200 at December 1st. They feel like a real championship level team, and I'll tell you why. Nick fucking Claxton. His development this year, his progression, both ends of the floor, he should absolutely be in consideration for one of the all-defensive teams. I've heard a number of smart people around the NBA say he should be potentially an all-star. He probably won't get it because I don't think they get 3 all-stars in. But he's having an all-star season.
Yeah. Do you feel like they still need a little depth in the front court, though? I know they've been linked to, like, Naz Reid, for example, a couple other guys, but just adding a piece, it doesn't have to be a star, but just a piece of deadline.
They need another big. I think that. Was having a conversation with someone yesterday. I'm not going to disclose who it was, but someone that follows the Nets closely. And we were discussing Seth and Joe because you can never have enough shooting. But to me, it feels like one of those guys potentially could be expendable if you were going to make a trade. Seth, so good last night against his former team and his father-in-law, Doc Rivers. But again, he's an undersized guard like Kyrie. So we saw how much size matters in that Boston series last year. Joe, in theory, is a bigger defender, a bigger wing player. So maybe you don't want to get rid of him, but that's a tough decision. If you decide one of those guys becomes expendable to get a difference maker inside. I think they have enough wing depth. TJ Warren, Ben Simmons, Royce O'Neal, Kevin Durant. It's a lot of size on the wing defensively. And I do think that's the position of need. Claxton is a clear starter, clear star-level player, but to have a little more flexibility given a Joel Embiid matchup, given a Giannis matchup in the playoffs, I think that's important.
All right, here's a Philly question for you. Since December 5th, Joel's averaging 35.7 points a game, 10.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 65% true shooting. He's 5th in our favorite thing, Raptor, as of today. If this team stays hot, Boston has a couple injuries, for whatever reason, they sneak into the 1 seed, he has to be in that MVP, in that top 3 MVP conversation.
I think it'd be the funniest thing. Not funny to Joel. I think it'd be hilarious, though, in some way, if Jokic wins, Joel is second again.
I will say this.
That would be insane.
I will say this. I'm not an MVP voter. I don't think I will be one for the foreseeable future. If they're the 1 seed and he keeps up like this, he should be the MVP, I think.
Playing like an MVP, but he played like an MVP last year. And he played like an MVP.
Yeah.
Like, this is what Joel is. And the markers of great teams, right? Efficient on both sides of the ball. Do you have a real difference maker a top 5 player. Philly has that. Philly has that. Tommy, really interesting thing about Philly on DraftKings Sportsbook. They have 30% of all money bet on them to win the East. That's the most money bet on any
Philly
team
does.
to win the East. Philly does. Just 12% of the total bets, but in terms of money bet. So there's some sharks out there, some really savvy bettors that are saying Philly's the team, which I find to be interesting. I still think Boston's the best team. I would love to see those two teams in the playoffs.
When I throw down on the NBA action, it's got to be with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Take a shot at an even bigger payout with DraftKings Friday Night Favorites. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app using code JJ, opt in, and place a 2-leg pregame moneyline parlay, and you'll get a 50% profit boost. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code JJ. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.